Hello, everyone. Your host today, Keith Cupp here, founder and CEO of Gravitas Impact, and good afternoon on the West Coast of the United States, as well as good morning in New Zealand or wherever you are in the world. Today, we're going to be learning about core strategy and the radical alignment to a core strategy and what it means in a business. Today, we'll be having a conversation with Mark Bishop. Mark is located in Auckland, New Zealand. He is the director and general manager of Active Healthcare. And as you see in the chat, I would like you to bring up on another screen or device, activehealthcare.co.nz. That's their website, activehealthcare.co.nz. And I'm going to refer to the site because there's some wonderful resources and illustrations there. And with Mark today is his coach, Leigh Paulden, a senior coach in Gravitas, also based out of Auckland, New Zealand. And also, we'll show a little bit later, Leigh's monograph was released yesterday on Amazon, Radical Alignment to a Core Strategy. So if you go to Amazon, put that in and Leigh Paulden's name, that will come up and you can order a copy. So with that, let's go ahead and get started. And I would like to begin a conversation with Mark and Leigh. And as we go, everyone, feel free to raise your hand or ask questions in the Q&A function on our webinar, or if you want to send a chat to, I'll be monitoring chat. So Mark and Leigh, welcome to today's webinar. How are things tomorrow in New Zealand?
The sun's out at the moment, Keith, so it's all positive.
Okay, and Mark, welcome to our conversation today. Let's go ahead and dig in. I want to read something from your website about Active Healthcare, just to give us context. We are a family business that passionately believes movement improves enjoyment in life. So you help the immobile in New Zealand. Tell us a little bit about your business and what you do in a little more depth.
Yeah, that's exactly right, Keith. So that's certainly the purpose of the business. We're involved in importing hospital equipment for hospital, aged care, and community health. So equipment that's funded for people in their homes. It's capital equipment, so as opposed to small, FMCG items. So it's going to be more around like your beds, your mattresses, and the patient lifting, patient transfer. And it's all systems that do enable mobility and movement and allow people to be active. It's a family business, as mentioned, so we're in the third generation now. So myself and my brothers own and manage the business. It was founded by our grandfather and then acquired and managed by our father. And then, in the sort of the last 10 years, myself and my brothers have acquired and managed the business. And we're based in Auckland, and we're selling throughout New Zealand here nationally with exclusive agencies from manufacturers around the world. We like to partner with the best in market, the highest quality, the most innovative manufacturers, and partner as their exclusive agent here in New Zealand.
And Mark, how many employees and rough range of turnover for the business annually?
We have around 20 employees and kind of sit in that kind of 15 to 20 million turnover space.
Okay, good. A true mid-market privately held company as a family business. Mark, give us a little bit about the hero's journey. Before really dialing in your core strategy and understanding it and getting in touch that with the help of Leigh, what were some of the challenges in the company? What was the company like before you really dialed in your core strategy?
Yeah, so when we began working on getting really clear on our core strategy, we had a blend of sort of A, B, C, and D players really. And so by getting clear on our strategy, we now have only A players. So we've been able to get our people right. we have only the right people now, which we think is well, we're proving is essential. And you know, the people are the vital part of delivering strategy and delivering on the values of the business, and realizing the amazing positive results of those. As a manager or navigating the business journey, having a clear strategy really brings clarity and focus, and enables you to make decisions, and to easily make the right decision. Because sometimes equally as important as saying yes to opportunities is saying no, which you're able to do because you know that it's something that doesn't fit. So it does remove uncertainty, and kind of needless delays on making decisions. So those are a few of the differences that we've proven since getting really clear on our strategy. Perhaps beforehand we just weren't so clear, and in contrast to those benefits we've proven.
Okay, thank you. And one thing for our listeners, if you go to the website, activehealthcare.co.nz, go to the core values page and take a look at your cultural handbook. Mark, I was very impressed that you have taken the time to build a cultural handbook. And last month on our webinar, we had David Friedman, who talks about creating a cultural plan. So that's a wonderful asset you have on your website. And thanks for having that there for our company leaders to take a look at. Leigh, let's go over to you now. So the coach's view, you and Mark started working together and with the family. What was kind of the state of the business from a strategy perspective before you were able to dig in and come alongside? And what was the process like to develop strategy with the Bishop family for Active Healthcare?
Yeah, when we started working together, there wasn't any company strategy there. So that there was a lot of questions being asked about what was the right direction. And so it was really starting from there to get the strategy clear so that the company and the people and the company had direction. The company was operating in a number of areas, but by distilling it down, working through the elements of strategy, getting them really clear, gave a clear direction. So there was confusion there at the start. That process, Keith, took most of the strategy was pretty clear over about 9 months. But yeah, to get it really clear, we came back to it in the second year with working with me. We did challenge some of those areas, but yeah, it just gave deeper understanding, deeper clarity by doing it.
And in a few moments, Leigh, I'll ask about what are the elements of strategy you helped develop. Mark, was it hard for the family to lean in, to work together to create strategy? Was there any resistance within the family, or were you at a point where, hey, we really need to do this together as a family, and you leaned in hard with Leigh coming alongside?
Yeah, that's exactly how it was. So we felt the need for it. We all agreed that it's what we wanted. So no, there was no resistance, and it's been a really, really positive step we took, and the last few years' work around it have been nothing but positive. And no, we all agreed that's what we wanted, and yeah, mutually leaned in together for sure.
And Mark, share, if you would, what are some of the key elements of your strategy that you would like to share with our audience?
Yeah, so basically, I think it's probably best communicated in our who. So, who is Active Healthcare, which is communicated on our website for those who have looked, and our core purpose and core competency and brand promise. So those exercises that we've worked out together with Leigh. So our core purpose is we care about people being active. Our core competency is providing the right solution every time. And our brand promise is quality product, the right product, and a positive experience. So that basically shapes our strategy in broad terms. And obviously there's detail in your daily work life. But that there kind of colours everything we do, as well as our values, which I think come alongside as an important part of strategy. And everyone may have had a look at those. Willingness to do more than what's required. We're empathetic and friendly. We're willing to learn. We do right by people. We take ownership. We have the ability to be flexible, and we display energy and commitment. So between the values and the core purpose, that you can measure everything you do along by those. And again, it just enables decision making and all strategic decisions as well at management level.
And Mark, even though you and your brothers were aligned with wanting to develop strategy, was it hard for you to collaborate and work together as a team with the rest of your team as you went through this process to build your strategy?
No, there was no difficulty working together with my brothers. We are very much in it together. We have, I guess, three different kind of areas of strength or expertise. So my older brother is very much is a very, very good salesman and heads up sales. My younger brother is very strong in kind of logistics and operations, so warehousing and freighting and the rest. And then I guess kind of the attention to detail and general management tends to be my strength. So we're really playing to our organic strengths. It took a bit of getting that right, but as we just kind of, I guess, accepted where we all fitted in and agreed upon it, it's working out really well.
Okay, excellent. So Leigh, as you embraced, began working with the Bishop family and starting on strategy, take us through the elements of strategy, perhaps a brief review of what they are, and then talk a little bit about, as you develop them, help them develop it, what were they learning and how did that process go?
I think, you probably had on a really important key there, Keith, right at the end. One thing we need to remember is that strategy is a process. It's not an event. You cannot get strategy deeply clear in 1 or 2 days. It is a process. It's a journey. So we need to go through that process and work through it. It's really key right at the start to get some elements clear. And so when I'm working with companies, there are 6 elements that we have to get clear really quickly. That gives us some direction, and then over time we work through the rest and get clarity on all the other elements of strategy. So there's 13 elements in what we call company strategy, or what's referred to as company strategy, and it's also referred to as corporate strategy. So, but those elements are core values, core purpose, what we're most passionate about as a company, what we're best in the world at as a company, what drives our economic engine, our BHAG, big, hairy, audacious goal, profit per X, core customers, brand promises, core competencies, sandbox or 3HAG, 3-year highly achievable goal, key thrusts and capabilities. And then the 13th one is differentiation. You've got to build differentiation on the way through into all those elements. It takes time. Working with Mark and his brothers, it's just as we worked through, they just got clearer and clearer and clearer on really, as Mark said, who they are. So it took some time, but with that clarity, it's makes a massive difference in the decision making.
What was the hardest part as you worked with them in each of those key 6 areas you referred to a few moments ago of strategy?
Probably the hardest area depends how we look at it, because some elements you need to reflect on and digest and then come back to and keep working on and having further discussions. And that's the right thing to do. Other elements needed research. So it was more a time thing than a challenge. Right at the beginning, getting their purpose clear, that did take a little bit of time, but it was more around challenging it and really making sure that it was right for the company and for them personally. So yeah, that took a bit of time. Once that was clear, then a lot of it unfolded from there. The other big area that was a challenge but was very enlightening for the company was their core customers, and really understanding who they are. And so that took a bit of time because research had to be done. But yeah, what came back in the data was very enlightening and just strengthened the company and gave it true understanding to a lot of the other elements of strategy.
Mark, recount for us again your core purpose, and where does that core purpose come from in your journey of clarifying that? Talk a little bit about where that core purpose originates in the family.
So when the advice we took actually around getting clear on our core purpose, the advice we took and enacted was to go back to the founder of the business and learn his why, or kind of what motivated him when he actually first struck out and established the business. Because after all, obviously that had worked well for the fact that the business had advanced into sort of that medium, sort of mid-market kind of size, and was still in existence with, so many, I guess, startups failing. So obviously there was something right about what he was doing. So we did that in actual discussions with our grandfather on that. And then we wanted to basically reapply that and make sure that we were still aligned with that and continue that. And then, so yeah, that kind of was the action we took around getting clear on our core strategy. And just to recount, as you suggested, on our core purpose, we care about people being active. It's quite a broad phrase, I guess, and you don't want it to be confused with a gym or a fitness program or something like that exactly. But just the whole lack of quality in life that our customers are enduring or suffering from, we wanted to be, to advertise or to be driven by providing equipment, solutions and systems that might just enable someone to even spend some time out of bed for a few hours in the day, and enhance quality of life that way. So that's become our core purpose, and we're proving it's very effective, and it really colors or influences everything we do.
Leigh, let's now rotate over to profit per X. And what I hear from many coaches worldwide and clients, core values takes work, but can be more linear to get to. Core purpose takes work, can get in touch with that. Often profit per X is one of the harder elements of strategy to understand and get in touch with. Leigh, define what is profit per X, and how do you get to your profit per X? And then I want to go back over to Mark and have him talk about his specific journey there. Leigh?
Yeah, I agree. It's a struggle. The main reason I think is that people don't realize that you've got to figure out what your economic engine is first. So we're going back to the hedgehog concept, and core elements of strategy. But what's our purpose in the world? But then also, what are we most passionate about as a company? Could be the same as your core purpose, or could be different. But then, what can we be best in the world at? And then you've got to figure out what drives your economic engine. When you really figure out what drives your economic engine, and you're sure that's right, and that's very much customer centric as well as internally in the company, then you can really look at that profit per X and challenge it. And we need to be really careful when we're setting profit per X. Is it the right profit per X for us? Do we want more of it? But the key here is, the first key, profit per X is a strategic metric. It is not operational. And that's where a lot of companies get stuck. They get stuck in operational thinking. And it's like, no, stop. It's like, this is a strategic metric. So what do we really want more of? And the other challenge with it, the second part, is that we need to remember that if we pick a profit per X, it's going to drive certain activities, and our systems need to align to actually being able to deliver that. So many companies, when they do figure out their profit per X, will change and tweak things internally to actually deliver it. But it's a big key. You've got to think about what activities will it drive? Are they the right activities? And the other thing that has to be considered with that is you've got to be careful, because it may put focus somewhere and you may lose sight of something internally. So we need to make sure we're not going to lose sight of something internally. It's a challenge, yes. It does take time. It is the one element of strategy that I quite often find takes months for people to get real clarity on it, because they're going back, they're challenging it, and it's the right thing to do. Once they're clear on it, it makes a massive difference to the company. This is where we see, it really can drive the bottom line as well as the growth.
So Leigh, one other question here, and you said it a few minutes ago. How do you know when you have it right? And so just hold your answer on that. Let me go over to Mark here. Mark, if you would like to share your profit per X, please do. But if you prefer not to, that's fine. But more importantly, how did you know when you had it right?
Yeah, so I mean, I think it's about always constantly challenging it to make sure it is right. But I suppose positive results is the key indicator. I think Leigh explained well how strategy and profit do relate to each other. And for us, I just think we proved that getting clear on company strategy, and then obviously our turnover, our general business performance, just rising and increasing and improving. It's no coincidence. I mean, the two are kind of hand in hand. So, like, since we started work on our company strategy, not only has our profile in our marketplace risen, our brand has become much more well established and highly trusted. Our turnover has virtually tripled since we've been working with Leigh in the last 5, 6, 7, 8 years, and we're experiencing compounding growth year on year. And then all the KPIs that we measure around basically the success or health of the business are certainly benchmark above market averages, including our gross profit margins and those performance indicators. So as I say, I think Leigh tied it together well. The importance of being clear on company strategies to deliver those bottom line results.
Leigh, how does a business owner or a leadership team know they have it right, the right profit per X? You said it takes some time. You want to keep challenging it, but when do you know that you're there?
You'll know when you're there because you'll be very clear on what it's going to drive for you. That's your key. It's like you'll be very clear on, yes, this is going to drive more of this. If we focus on this, it will drive growth. If we focus on this, it will increase profitability. Mm-hmm. So it's not a simple answer, but I hope that helps.
Yes.
It's like, you'll know, but it's only through challenging it and having those discussions and getting that clarity that you will know. That does take time. Mm-hmm. But I do say it's like get the economic engine figured out first. And a key there, because I know a lot of companies struggle with that as well. But one of the quickest ways to start figuring out your economic engine is to have a look at why do your customers come back to you? Why do they refer to you? That'll give you insights. But when you're clear on your economic engine, that is definitely going to help with your profit per X, because profit per X must align with your economic engine and it must align with your BHAG. So that's also a check that have we got it right. But we do need to challenge it. And this is where I see quite often 6 or 7 sessions with clients before, just challenging it, for an hour and a half at a time. And then, all of a sudden that they know why it's right.
And in your monograph, you go into quite a bit of detail, and your co-contributor, Hans, in New Zealand give some great examples of candidate profit per X, but they're going to be very unique to the business, correct?
Yes, they are. Yep. So yeah, your profit per X, it's don't look at your industry benchmark or what your competitors are measuring. It's like, get really clear, because you can be in the same industry but have a different profit per X. But yeah, there's examples in the book of profit per X. But yeah, many times I've seen companies when they've realized that what their profit per X is, you can actually see that their competitors aren't measuring it just by the way the activities are happening. So yeah, it's a strategic metric, and yeah, get it right, it'll drive growth and profitability.
And I do believe that may be one indicator you're in the right neighborhood with profit per X is others aren't focusing on it in your competitive set. So that's a very interesting comment. Mark, back over to you. So we've talked about core values. You shared your core values, your core purpose. We talked about profit per X, which is hard to get to, takes time. You challenge it, talk to your customers. What is your brand promise? What is the promise that you make to your core customers? Share that with us, please.
Yeah, well, providing the right solution every time is probably the main, or certainly a key part of the brand promise. So many times through lack of, I guess, pre-qualifying or really asking good questions and the rest, we see in our marketplace people getting it wrong, and then customers being really unsatisfied with the outcome. So I think the right solution the first time and every time is what we're focused on.
And talk a little bit about how do you measure that? The best brand promises are measured and then confirmed. What are some of the key performance indicators or measurements you use at Active Healthcare to assure you're meeting your brand promise?
Yeah, it's there's nothing really highly scientific about that. Basically, we are able to see when what we supply or deliver for trial or put in place for evaluation as to whether it sticks or not, or whether it comes back, or whether the customer indeed decides to run with it or return it. So yeah, that's at a very basic level. But I think what we prove the importance of is asking great questions, having that relationship with the customer to be able to discuss in detail what it is they're trying to achieve, and even read between the lines, work out what they don't even know themselves about what they're trying to do, and fill those gaps so that your solution is right and it sticks and it's what they run with.
And Mark, you and your family have done something I think is very curious and very interesting around strategy. And so for listeners, if you go to activehealthcare.co.nz, NZ/experience, you're going to see something that Active Healthcare does relative to give their core customer an experience. Mark, talk a little bit about your experience that you've created there for your customers and why you did that and what it is doing relative to confirming your brand promise.
Yeah, so we've built what we call the Experience Centre. So it's actually a physical space here at our head office premises, and it's 5 different rooms or scenarios, and it's physical rooms. So you've got like a public hospital room, which we can completely set up to simulate an ICU space or operating theatre, or even just a hospital ward room. So it looks and feels like that environment. And then we've got a couple of different aged care bedrooms. So that's what you're going to find in our rest homes or nursing homes or aged care facilities. And again, they look and feel exactly like those actual rooms, like to the point that we consulted with the same interior designers that aged care facilities here in New Zealand are using to design and deliver our rooms so that they are truly the same. And then you've got a community bathroom environment for the disabled. So that's all like a level entry showering space and all of our bathroom and hygiene products installed in there. And then lastly, just a bedroom. So basically, if a family member is unwell and needs equipment systems in their own home, they can come in here and go into a fairly typical bedroom like you'd find in a home here in New Zealand. and see and touch and feel all the equipment systems that we supply in that real life environment. So the impact has been very, very profound, from whether you have a family in here to kind of check out what their home would look and feel like with equipment systems for a disabled or an elderly family member, or when you get executives from aged care groups coming in to kind of see our aged care room offering. I think it just beats having just a showroom where you've just got equipment kind of sitting around on display for them to look at. We've created this real life environment, which we're proving is very, very effective.
You essentially have created a customer experience for them to try before they buy, correct?
Yeah, exactly right. So there's situations like, for instance, where a family may have a child and they come through with a disability, either from birth or as a result of an accident or whatever, and their whole house is going to kind of be profoundly changed. So there's going to be installation of all sorts of equipment for the child's daily life, and it's pretty daunting for families to have their homes so changed. But they can come here and see and kind of take in what it is they may need and how it actually looks and functions and feels, and that's a way of kind of introducing to them the changes that may be needed to be made to their homes. So that's an example of a family. But then again, hospital customers can come and see a very familiar hospital environment with our equipment systems in use, and they're just really able to imagine or apply that to their own hospital where they work.
Mm-hmm. And just by way of review, Mark, also one of your core values is centered around empathy, correct?
Yeah, certainly. Empathetic and friendly. That's one of our core values, and that's extremely important in our business.
And I think the point there that is really fascinating and well done is you've connected your core values directly to your brand promise with the customer experience. And those three things connected together can be a huge, huge strategic differentiator. Leigh, talk about brand promise. Review for us real quick. What is a brand promise? And what was the process to find that with the Bishop family?
Your brand promise very simply has to be centered around your core customer or core customers, which is in most cases core customers for companies. But what are their top needs? What are their top three needs? So that's really, that's where you've got to understand those, which is why core customer is part of company strategy. Mm-hmm. It's so that, then you can look at your brand promise from there. Your brand promise has got to deliver on your core customers' top three needs. So the journey there was, Jana, who was the marketing manager at the time at Active Healthcare, actually went and spent time with customers, interviewed them, asked the right questions to really dig out what were the top needs of the core customers. And then from there, they were able to build the brand promises out from that data that came back. I won't go into the strategic pieces that came out of that because they're strategically sensitive. However, it gave some big insights. Now, what this does do is when we're clear on those top needs, the thing we've then got to look at is, are we delivering on them? And if we're not, that's fine, because now we know what we need to deliver on. But then what activities need to change? What systems need to change? Where does our marketing need to change? How does our sales process need to change? So it affects all those things. But as Mark's described, very powerful. And can we get it down? There's three promises in there. That's the core customer's top three needs. But we need to get it simple like that so that the team right through your company, so they all know it, understand it. And then they're able to use them as filters as well when they're making decisions.
Leigh, let me ask a question that's a little more broad and working with other clients through your years of coaching too, in addition to Active Healthcare. Most companies are not clear on their core customer. They often have too many core customers, and they don't have the depth of description and focus on a few core customer profiles. Would you agree with that and comment on that?
I absolutely agree with you, Keith. Yes, you're right. In the case of, with other clients, it's exactly the same. So what I'll share with you is they don't have one core customer, they have multiple. And if you're in different industries, you'll probably have multiple core customers in the one industry. Now, the key here is your core customer is an individual. They're a decision maker in the buying process. And it's not a company, it's not a market. So if you've got 3 decision makers to buy your product or your services, or combination of 3 decision makers, that's 3 core customers. They'll all be in different roles. What are their top needs? That's what companies need to understand. And what's really important is just don't let salespeople do it, please. Salespeople want to protect the relationship, which is absolutely right, but they don't ask the right questions to get the right data back. So you end up with something fluffy. Yeah? But when you really understand those needs, then we can deliver on those. And yes, I agree. It also strategically is hugely powerful for a company. It's because more than likely your competitors do not know this either.
And so, Leigh, I want to be really clear on this point. This is very interesting for our audience, is start with the buying process, the decision maker process within your customer, and understand the real people, those roles, and what they need in order to make a successful buying process. Is that accurate?
Yes, correct.
Okay. And we often refer to that too as what is the problem to solve for that individual or those 2 or 3 individuals in the buying decision chain. Excellent point there. Leigh, last question on this, then we'll keep rolling. What is the relationship of best in the world and brand promise?
When you figured out you're best in the world, what you need to be best in the world at, in your world, and I've got to emphasize that, in your world, what do you need to be best in the world at? So it's really interesting. As that comes out and you look at that, then you do the core customer research and really understand the top needs of your core customers. Then you can look at that and look back at your best in the world at. They've got to be aligned. So, so does this align? And if your core customers' top needs are not aligning with your best in the world at, then you need to do more work on your best in the world at, because there's no point delivering something or trying to deliver something that is not of high value to the customer. So it must be of high value to the customer. The other thing with best in the world at for a lot of companies to understand is, and in every company I've worked with around this, which is over 300 now, it's always been future state. They're not best in the world at it now, and that's fine. But what do we need to be best in the world at in 5 years or 7 years' time?
And the key, I think it's very important to highlight, best in the world at is the best in the world that within you play, okay, the world that you play within, and it's aspirational. It's a future state to work toward. Mark, earlier you said something very fascinating as we started. You connected directly radical alignment to a core strategy, clarity on your strategy with talent. And you shared that as you became more clear on your core strategy, then you became more clear on having a talent. Why did that happen? What would you like to share on that learning?
Yeah, I think that's that's the people being aligned to your core purpose and values, and we've proven that that's vitally important. So in terms of talent and having that alignment. So anyone who's not aligned with your core purpose and values is really going to be a fish out of water, aren't they? I mean, not only will work life for management and for their colleagues be perhaps difficult, but they won't be enjoying the job themselves. What happened in our experience when we were getting really clear on our core strategy and values, and as I said, we had kind of a blend of B, C, and D players as well as A players. we noticed people who didn't align kind of tending to organically sort of slide towards the door, to use that expression. So basically there was an element of self-selection, which is great, because you really don't want people on the team who aren't aligned. I mean, it's even in spite of whatever credentials they feel they have, or how long they've been with the company or whatever. Certainly alignment to culture and values comes first, and we've proven the absolute essential need for that.
Leigh, when we talk about talent in a company, you help create a core strategy, and alignment to the of a talent often is around core values. How do you know, though, if the talent is aligned with the overall strategy, not just the values? Thinking of the strategy as a larger circle, and a subset in that is the core values, their character. How do you know when someone's aligned with the strategy of the company?
Are you talking about, so just for some clarity for me, Keith, are we talking about right at the start in the hiring process, or are we talking about ongoing? Ongoing, yeah. So really this is where strategy has to be alive in the company, and Mark talked about it earlier, and they're really good at it. That when you've got your company, those elements of company strategy clear, then we need to distill them down so the words are simple. With the word simple, then we can communicate them to the people. Right? So, and that's really important. And you can communicate it then to any stakeholder, and very clearly, very simply, they'll get it. However, the key here is keeping it alive. Right? If you want people aligned to your core strategy, it's got to be alive. And the point Mark made, which is absolutely right for any company, is that you've got to get your people to make decisions themselves. However, based on the strategy, you've got to get your people to use strategy as a filter. So when they're making decisions, it's simply, does this align with our core values? Yes or no? Does this align with our core purpose? Yes or no? Does this align with our brand promises? Yes or no? If people in the company are getting decision making, they're getting lots of no's, well, obviously it doesn't align. So don't invest the time or the effort chasing that, or the money. And so, but that's your key. Get your people, not just the leadership team, but your people using your strategic elements as filters so they can make decisions. And this speeds the company up because you're getting decision making happening much, much faster. But they've got a lot of clarity. They know when things are right and when they're not, because they can see it. The other part to it is, as a leadership team, we've got to keep talking to the strategy. We've got to keep going back to it and using it to actually show, yes, we are progressing. Yes, our efforts are making a difference. So yeah, those are pretty much the keys.
Mark, on your journey to getting clarity on your core strategy and developing it, what were the hardest parts in your journey? Where were the sticking points that you had to break through?
Possibly, like I said earlier, sometimes you actually are saying no to things, or even moving away from a marketplace where you thought that you thought was yours. So, I mean, nothing was really hard about it. I think we were really willing to do whatever we needed to do, because we could see the potential and the benefits that would the potential benefits. I guess you might have fancied yourself as a supplier of a certain marketplace, for instance, and then you realize that that marketplace isn't actually aligned strategically to where you will go or need to go. So perhaps letting some things go, or turning your back on some stuff to focus on another area. Again, it's not difficult, but it can be quite a huge change of mind or direction.
Mark, do you have an example where you and your brothers had to say no or pivot away from a market that you can share with our listeners?
I don't exactly. I guess one area that we have realised and we've persistently stuck with, and it's actually starting to really change and develop now, is that we've always positioned ourselves at the premium or high quality and more expensive end of all our marketplaces, really. And one area that I think we probably did just kind of not give up on, but strategically avoid or move away from was, in particular in aged care here in New Zealand, basically huge aged care groups just wanting the cheapest solution, just completely price driven.
Mm-hmm.
And not only did we not have anything kind of in their price expectation bracket, but it just wasn't, it just didn't align strategically. So we were kind of happy to just move away from that. But yeah, without having specific examples, I think there are just areas in business that you have the clarity to say, no, that doesn't quite fit. And then you're not, as Leigh said, you're not investing any, or there's no time wastage or kind of, misguided investment of money or resources or time.
Leigh, in your experience, why is it hard for companies to say no and to stick to their core strategy and keep it simple?
I think you answered it there, Keith. It's hard.
Okay.
And it's a comment that I've had from many CEOs over the years is, the question I've asked quite often of CEOs, of clients, has been, as a CEO, what do you find is the hardest thing in your role? And it's amazing, well over 50% of the time, the answer's been sticking to the plan is the hardest thing. So yeah, it's not easy to do, but however, if we really are clear on our strategy, you'll know what's right or wrong, but sometimes it won't be easy. So that's really the key.
And gentlemen, we just have a few minutes left. Mark, I want to come up to a higher level, kind of come up into the clouds a little bit. And now looking down through time, you have created a clear strategy for the company. There's the clarity really shines through on your website. You are getting the results of a clear strategy with your metrics, your profit. You've got A-player talent. What are some of the other benefits, unexpected, unintended benefits you've experienced by having a very simple, clear strategy that you've stuck to?
Yeah, I think focus has just given us all focus. I mean, it just determines everything we do and don't do. It's brought about plenty of fun and celebration. So we celebrate success, and again, when you've got A players who are all aligned, I mean, we're all friends. So we have a lot of fun and celebration. We have alignment, so we're all thinking the same. Certainty, clarity of mind, consistency. Those are definitely a few of the positive outcomes of being really clear on all of this. And then I guess commercially and in our marketplace and in our country here in New Zealand, just the rise of the profile of our brand, and the growth and trust in the brand.
Leigh, how about you? What are some of the other unintended positive consequences you've seen through time as you've seen clients and customers get clear and stick to a simple core strategy?
I think Mark's described obviously a lot of them, and he's right. You've got to have a team of A players to enable it. But as being, which is the title of the monograph's about, but we have to be disciplined and to the extent of almost being radical and sticking to it. By doing that, what I do see is exactly what Mark's saying. You'll see that companies are growing year on year on year, and compound growth, but at good percentages. Not just, it's not organic growth. You see in all cases I've seen, their bottom line profit percentages are well ahead of industry averages and also competitors. And the biggest one, some of the others I see is that you'll see that their revenue per FTE will be very high. It's another metric that you see. But I think the big one's what Mark's saying. What I see with with the companies that do it, they're the ones having fun on their climb to success. It is fun, and who wants to be in a company that's not fun? So it's well worth the effort.
Life is too short not to be in business and have fun. That's true. So, well, let's see. So I'll ask Mitch to go ahead and put up just an image of your monographs. So Leigh's monograph, Radical Alignment to a Core Strategy, as I mentioned earlier, is available on Amazon.com, both in North America as well as Australia, down under New Zealand, and then in Europe. And the basis of a monograph, it's about a 90-minute read, so that if you're on an airplane for 90 minutes, you can read it as a leader, and you'll have very practical tools in it. And so this is our latest monograph that is released yesterday. And so as we bring things to a close, Mark, speak to your peer leaders across the world. What would you share with them, or what advice would you give them if their strategy isn't as clear and simple as they would like it? What would you say to them right now before we close?
Oh, I think I'd just absolutely recommend to really engage in some work around it and get really clear. I don't have a lot of experience in advice to others other than what we've proven ourselves in our own experience. But that process that we enacted of going back to the actual founder of the business and really picking his brain about his why and his motivation, that was definitely a key part of it. I would just recommend really doing a piece of work around it and getting clear on it because of the just the relief and I guess focus and clarity it brings about. So no, go for it, definitely.
Okay. And Mark, thank you for joining us today. Takes us some time out of your tomorrow. Leigh, what would you advise a leader that's listening in and saying, gosh, this is great content. I appreciate the story of Mark at Active Healthcare, but where do I start? What would you encourage them, a very simple next step to strengthen their strategy?
I would, exactly what Mark's saying, I would make sure that our core purpose is right for the organisation or the company, and that the core values are right, and that they are, like Mark's shared, there's active healthcare is a very much attitude as well as behaviour. So we need to get those two things right first, because that really enables us to start building the team of A players. And then the next piece I would do is I'd be looking very closely at the hedgehog concept. The three questions: what are we most passionate about? What can we be best in the world at? What drives our economic engine? But without that clarity, the risk is that if we set a BHAG, have we set the right one? The BHAG sits in the middle of those three. So, and I have come across companies which have had BHAGs not performing. And when we went through the hedgehog concept, we found that the BHAG was wrong. So, they've had to reset it, which is fine. But that's where I would start. And you'll get a lot of clarity through that. And then you can work on, carry on with the other elements.
Radical alignment to a core strategy, activehealthcare.co.nz in New Zealand. Mark Bishop, Leigh Paulden, thanks for joining us and sharing your story.
Thanks, Keith.
Thank you for having us.
And everyone, next month, join us in a month in October. Liz Wiseman, the author of Multipliers, has finished her years of research, and now her new book, Impact Players, is coming out in early October. I'll be interviewing and conversing with Liz coming up on the 21st of October here in North America at 2 p.m. Please scan the QR code or go on our site, register for this webinar. It's going to be an action-packed, very informative webinar on leadership with Liz Wiseman. Everyone, thanks for joining us today and tomorrow down under here with Gravitas Impact. Take care, everyone.